Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fan Behavior. I'm Hannah, and Zoe is out this weekend, so I am joined by some of our social media besties and two-thirds of the triplet pod, Irene and Neha. Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are we doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, it's good Sunday so far, so can't complain.
Yes, agreed. Good Sunday. So we will kind of dive into the race and the whole weekend, but I wanted to talk first about some of the news that happened this week and kind of came out. So first one is that Alex Albon has re-signed at Williams for 2 more years, which I'm personally very excited about, but would love to hear your guys' thoughts.
I'm also really excited about it. I mean, Williams, I feel like has slowly become everyone's favorite team. Like you can like
Yeah.
Mercedes, you can like Ferrari, you can like McLaren, but you love Williams
Yeah.
regardless. So I'm really happy for Alex. I feel like especially after all of his like ups and downs at Red Bull, and now he has like a place where he's consistently loved and supported
Yeah.
through all the ups and downs.
No, I
Love
totally agree.
Yeah.
I I'm really excited, and I'm also excited for the trajectory that Williams is going through because I feel like this is a really good sign that they re-signed Alex for so long when I feel like there were a lot of teams looking at him.
No, I totally agree. And I've talked about this before, but I really love James, and maybe I'm putting too much of, trust in him, but I just feel like he learned a lot from his time at Mercedes, and he just seems like a really good leader. And I don't know, sometimes I think about like some of the coaches and like football programs like in the NFL who are really like trying to build a program, and I feel like that's what he's trying to do, and I really appreciate it. Um,
Yeah,
so
that's
but
how I
around
feel about Lions coach. I'm like,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
he's here to stay.
I know. Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. I just think it's just so much better. And you just get so much more invested, I feel like at this point, I'm invested in the Williams journey. I want to see, if Alex is willing to re-sign even after some of the struggles he has, to me, it means like he obviously knows more about it than I do about what's
That's what I
going
want
on.
to
And
say.
he trusts the team and he trusts the direction. And so I'm very excited about that. But the other piece of news that came out about Williams is Bottas. There's rumors that he was, well, I think he actually was in um, the Williams motorhome at Imola, which he has said is because he ran out of coffee.
Oh, of
Um,
course.
and so he needed to go get some. Him and James are good friends, and he needed more coffee. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just not sure how their motorhome ran out of coffee.
I
Um,
The fact that it's like whatever their team name is at this point, like I wouldn't be surprised if they
Well, if
did.
that's, yeah, maybe. I just don't, the hospitality teams work their butt off. But I'm just curious. I know there's been some conversation about, if Logan will get re-signed, if he won't get re-signed. So curious about your thoughts on Logan's trajectory and then also what your thoughts are and kind of what Bottas will end up doing next season.
Yeah. I mean, apparently it was a 15-minute meeting with James Vowles, which is not a short amount of time. And
No.
it's not like it's a little too long to just like have a little like espresso, I guess. So I'm like, But I mean, Valtteri started off at Williams. He was there for a good little bit before coming to Mercedes. He knows James. He's worked with James. I wouldn't be overwhelmingly surprised if he did end up there, especially given Logan's whole situation and the things that James has recently said about Logan being at risk. So, I mean, there's obviously lots of factors. There's also the Kimi Antonelli of it all, but
Hmm.
I mean, Valtteri is a good, trustworthy driver, proven race winner. I'm a huge Valtteri fan.
Me
So.
too.
Yeah. I think that Valtteri has like a lot of advice and a lot of like experience to give, so it would make
Mhm.
sense. Although sometimes I am surprised that he's still driving because he's off on so many side quests,
I
all
know.
like the biking and the fact that he's basically like an Australia travel sponsor all the
Yeah.
time. He's a travel influencer at this point. So I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I can't believe you're still here. But I do think he has a lot of advice to give, and I think it would be a really great partnership. And I do worry about Logan and his seat. Part of me doesn't know if he will be driving next season at all, which is
I
really sad.
know. I know. I feel the same. And we've talked about Logan a lot. And like at first, I remember when there was issues with him, I was just kind of like over it. I just wanted like, let's move on, let's just be done. And then this season, I've just felt really bad for him. I just feel like sad that he has had so many struggles, and I don't know, I just feel like he's just really gotten in his head. But I also love Valtteri, and I think there's a lot of people, myself included, who have thought that maybe Valtteri would retire after this year. So I'm excited about the prospect of him staying in the sport for sure. And also I'm obsessed with him because, and I've said this on this podcast so many times, but he comes to our town for a bike race, which is
Oh,
cool. Like I've never actually ran into him here, but I like
but you could.
he hangs out in my town. So
Oh.
that's my only like claim to fame, really. It's okay. Well, that and Taylor Swift, I should say. Taylor Swift is spending a lot of time in these parts these days.
Mhm.
But okay, so we love a crossover over here. I'm sure you guys do too.
Course.
Lewis Hamilton did the Broncos schedule reveal, and I want thoughts, opinions, question. I haven't followed NFL a lot. Like, obviously, I've gotten more into it because of, Travis and Taylor, and the Chiefs have been doing really well in the last few years. Do they always do a announcement like this? I feel like I've only seen more generic stuff.
It's been a lot more recently. I think like with the rise of like TikTok, social media, the
Yeah.
teams have been getting a little bit more extra. This year is probably the best I've ever seen. I mean, obviously the Broncos did their thing. The Chargers did their whole like Sims world, which
Uh-huh.
was really funny. The Lions had Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson from Detroiters, and I think you should leave, and did like a whole meme kind of schedule reveal. I think all the teams went really creative, but the Broncos was so funny because that crossover moment was iconic, but
Yeah,
also it was all vegan food. So
Yes.
I'm like, what
I
is vegan
know.
ranch? What is vegan ranch?
That's true.
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
kind of shocked by some of his reactions and the way that he didn't like some of the food. I was like, I feel like whoever gave you that, like, didn't give you, like, how can you not love Southern food?
Mhm.
Something was iffy there. And the fact that, like, avocado toast and ranch were his favorite, I was like,
Yeah.
something was up over here.
Yeah, well, and then like when he had Kansas City barbecue, like he didn't have anything. Like there is vegetarian barbecue food that you can have with barbecue sauce. Like I wasn't really sure why he was just like tasting barbecue sauce, but it's okay. I will say, like, I love the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs one was kind of lame. Like I know what they were going for because I feel like I mean, the compression videos I feel like do really well on TikTok, but when you have Lewis Hamilton doing one and then Nick Miller narrating the one for the Bears, which is iconic, I just felt like I know it's probably a little too early to have Taylor do it, but it felt like we could have done an era something like we could have,
That would have been so cute if they did that. I would have
Mhm.
loved an Eras Tour one.
yeah. And then I saw too that I always think it's really funny when gifts get given to whoever and they have to like open it on camera and I just feel like it's at a birthday party, like when you're opening presents and you, even if you hate it, you have to be like, thanks, this is great.
Oh my
So
gosh,
the video of Lewis opening Roscoe's gifts,
I
and they
love
were
it.
very cute. Like I don't think he's lying, but I felt really uncomfortable for him while he was opening those.
Oh
Of
my
like, wow,
gosh.
Roscoe's gonna love this chain. I'm like, I don't know if he will, but
Honestly, I'm like, it's a cute, very thoughtful
Mhm.
kind of gift. Like it's Broncos
Mhm.
related, but like, will Roscoe appreciate it? I don't know Roscoe, so I don't know.
yeah, I don't know Roscoe well either, but I'm sure if, Lewis gives it to him, he'll be into it. Okay, and the other thing, I feel like we've kind of beat this conversation to death a little bit, and but I'm just curious about your opinions because we obviously haven't talked about this. But um, at one point, I think it was last week or the week before last, Adrian said he had no idea what he was doing after he left Red Bull, and to no one's real surprise, it came out this week that he's intending on staying in F1 and will likely move to a different team. And it sounds like the consensus among the community is that he'll probably go to Ferrari. But I'm just curious, if you guys think he would go anywhere else or what your thoughts are on him going to Ferrari and all that.
I have seen rumors like back and forth if he's going to go to Ferrari or he's going to go to McLaren. So I'm like, I don't know. I do, crossing my fingers, hope that it's Ferrari. And I think it'd be great because it's like two birds with one stone for him. Of like he wants to work with Lewis Hamilton, he wants to work with Ferrari, so that would be perfect. And I also saw that like Daily Mail article that was like he is going to be working with Ferrari, and obviously we don't trust the Daily Mail, but I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard so many different things, and maybe it's just like people who are like in my like messages who are like, oh, I think he's gonna Aston Martin, I think he's gonna Williams, and I was like, where did the Williams come in? Because I've never heard anyone saying that he's gonna Williams, but I do also think that he's going to Ferrari. And again, that's for my little Lewis Hamilton fan heart, because I'm like, I would love to see that, and I also just miss seeing Lewis win races so badly.
I know, I've never seen it happen.
Yeah, I've never seen it happen either, so that'd be wild. But I don't know if you guys saw that like tweet that went really viral, but it was like Adrian Newey's opinions on different team principals, and I have no idea like how much merit that had, but I was like, this is really.
I could not see that.
Oh, I haven't seen that either. What was the verdict?
It was like oh my goodness, it was not great things about most of the team principals. So everybody concluded that it was like, yeah, he's going to be moving to Ferrari because he was like, he doesn't like Lawrence Stroll and he doesn't like Toto. And I was like, he just like had some like comments to say. But I don't know how much merit that has because I did see it on Twitter. So
I did in Miami go up to Adrian Newey. And I did tell him, thank you for everything you've done for this sport. And he was like, oh, thank you so much. And then he shook my hand, and there's just a picture of me, just like us, like acknowledging each other's presence. And I was like, this is a moment.
That's the most iconic thing ever.
Yeah, literally.
So I'm gonna take that as a sign, because I was also just like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but my Midwesternness was like, I can go up to anyone and say anything.
Totally.
So I did go to Adrian Newey and I did say that. And then I don't know, he was also talking to someone else beforehand, and I didn't hear any part of that conversation, but I'm going to pretend that he was talking about how he's moving to Ferrari next year.
I think that's great. And I mean, I think you felt the vibes, you were with him in person.
Yes. He was very smiley.
Which is funny because that doesn't actually surprise me, but I feel like because he's so serious, like his job is so serious, I feel like every photo I ever see of him, he just looks like he's so unhappy to be there.
Yeah.
But someone of his age and caliber who is choosing to stay in the sport and not retire or do something else, or, thinking about staying in the sport, I don't think he's that unhappy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I think he's vibing. He's having a good time. He's getting paid to kind of do nothing right now.
That's true.
Except sit on the pit wall.
And I think that he's going to continue to have that ability because everybody wants him, and just his expertise in like whatever, like one sentence or like random email he sends, you're like, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So the other thing is, I feel like I think Zach Brown maybe said something which isn't that shocking, but just kind of, I think the murmurings that like more people are going to leave Red Bull, and like the dominoes are going to kind of keep falling. And like, to be totally honest with you, this is where like the larger team, I'm not always 100% sure like who the players are, but Neha, I know you're the engineering brain here, but just curious for both of you guys if you think there's anyone else. I mean, any loss of a team to going somewhere else is significant, but if there's any other significant players in the Red Bull family that you think will exit and go somewhere else.
I mean, not just Red Bull, but Red Bull and Mercedes. I feel like we've already seen so much exodus from both of those teams over the last couple of seasons. We like Toto's number 2 is now going to Ferrari next year, and I'm like, that's crazy to think about, because I mean, obviously they have experienced championship winning situations, and it seems like Fred Vasseur has some like magical ability to get everyone that he wants into the team. So that is true. Then we're gonna see, and we also saw with Aston Martin in 2022, not David Sanchez, I'm forgetting his name, but they're like basically Adrian Newey's number 2 went to be Aston Martin's head aerodynamicist, and we saw the car at the beginning of 2023 where it was good. It was great, doing what they needed to. So in that way, I feel like over the next couple of years, we are gonna see that top figures at the teams that are doing well are going to try to take their knowledge to the smaller teams, the Audis and the Williams, because they know what it takes to build a championship winning car, and they want to be the person who's doing the thing rather than being like the second or the third.
Sure.
To have that knowledge.
Yeah.
Like both Fred Vasseur and James Vowles have this incredible ability and direction with their teams. And I think that's what's drawing a lot of people over as well. It's like, they're just very convincing people. Like they just have a way with words.
Yeah, well, the meme of Fred Vasseur as the Pope was really telling. You know, it just felt like, you know, not good to compare him to a very, you know, high level religious figure, but it just in the sense that like he's very powerful. He's clearly working it. And it almost feels like the transfer portal has like made it like from NCAA has made its way into Formula One. I just feel like everyone's kind of switching around. Which is kind of fun. I'll be curious to see where it all goes.
Honestly, more than driver silly season, team personnel silly season is almost like just as interesting. Because you're like, how will this actually change the team? Because yes, the drivers do one part, but the engineers do a completely different part.
You're right, 100%. Yeah, it'll be super interesting to see how everything shakes out. And I don't know, I think I said this a couple weeks ago, but like as someone who really likes to know everything that's going on all the time, I've picked the worst sport imaginable to be a fan of because nothing stays the same. Everything's changing all the time. Okay, so let's get into the race happenings this weekend. We talked before we started, but I traditionally don't watch practice. It's not that exciting for me. I feel like I have a hard time staying in tune, and I know you guys watched a little bit of it. So I'm just going to go through some of the high level recap of practice that I found in news articles. And if there's any info that you guys want to chime in with, please let me know. But practice in FP1, we had Ollie Bierman out in the Haas for is that his first time this season?
First FP1 session, yes.
Yes. And how are you? I really like Ollie. I feel like we've heard lots about him. Do you think he's going to come in and like get one of the Haas seats for next year?
I think so, definitely. I think I mean, Nico is gone now, so there's basically a free seat open for him. I think it's now just a matter of super license points because I do think that it's over like a 3-year span, and I think that his 40 points might be part of his 40 points might be expiring at the end of this year. So he does need to do well in F2. So I don't think he's a great race today. I'm not going to lie.
I think he's had a rough season so far because I remember when he was racing with Ferrari, everybody was like, oh, it's like something had just happened in F2 as well. And just like the struggle, I've heard whispers of the struggle being real for him in F2.
Well, that's a bummer. And the super license thing, like I get it. I understand why it exists. But to have points expire, I don't know. It just feels like a bummer but I guess that's just this part of this whole crazy sport we all decided to watch. And then, okay, so Alex Albon went over. There were curb checks all weekend, which was fun. I love the slow-mo of them because it really does look like they're flying through the air. Because it happened so fast, obviously, that it's like in real time, you can't really tell that anything significant happened. And then the slow-mo, it looks like they're just leaping. But so that caused a red flag. And then it seems like through FP1 and 2, Max was really struggling with grip and had some balance issues. I saw in FP1, Checo got a speeding fine, and call me ignorant, but like I didn't know you could get a speeding fine. Was he speeding in the pit lane or was he speeding on the track?
In the pit lane. So
okay, that's fine. That I knew about. They didn't clarify that it was in the pit lane, and so I was like, how can you speed during a race? I didn't know that there was a speed limit.
I would have thought the same thing.
I was like, wow, I'm so dumb. I've never heard this before. So good. Turns out I knew what I was talking about. That's good. And then there were 2 red flags in FP3. Fernando lost the rear. He had a rough weekend. And then Sergio went into the barrier. Checo. What are your thoughts on Checo? For next year? We don't have to talk about overarching in general, but just for next year, I really can't figure out what's going to happen.
I was telling Irene this earlier. I was like, I think Monaco is going to be a real test for him because he hasn't been performing. He's actually been performing very close to in performance, not into max, but to everyone else, which is what is expected of him. Like finish P2, finish on the podium every single race, be as close to max as possible, I think is his current goal. And he's been doing that pretty consistently. This was the first race where it was like he didn't make Q3, he didn't do, and like this is kind of mirroring last year where right after Miami it kind of went south for him. So I think Monaco is going to be a real test of can he uphold that performance. I mean, Monaco 2022 was like a crowning moment for him, so he's a good racer around or qualifier around Monaco obviously, but he needs to be able to put in those performances more consistently to show that he does deserve the seat.
I just think it's tough, like if Checo leaves, like who would be Max's second teammate?
I know.
It takes a very strong-willed person because you have to understand that Max will always be first. And I don't know any other driver who would be so willing to be in such a position.
Because Carlos definitely not.
Oh my god.
No, part of me wonders if Liam would, but I always worry with Liam that he's gonna go through the Alex and Pierre issues. And honestly, part of me, like I know that he maybe hasn't proved that he should be in the Red Bull, but part of me just feels like it will be easier for everyone if Daniel just takes it.
Maybe. I mean, Daniel also Miami sprint was a great showing
for sure. Yeah.
So I think he also needs to prove himself a little bit.
No, I agree. I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, I don't know if he's deserved it yet, but I just feel like he can, with all of the, tumultuous stuff he's been through in the sport, he would be okay being number 2 again. I think he would just learn to appreciate it, but maybe not. I don't know.
I do think it's between those two, though. I think it's between Checo and Daniel for that second Red Bull seat.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought about, and I think we talked about this too, but there was an interview that Alex Albon did, and he was talking about some of the struggles he went through at Red Bull and how, like, at the beginning, the beginning of the season, his car was okay, but then as they keep tailoring it to Max and certain things about how he likes to drive, it makes it more difficult to adapt. And I think when I heard that, it gave me a little bit more perspective on Checo, because Checo's a good driver. And so you're just like, how do you all of a sudden fall apart, a few races into the season? But it makes sense if it's, more related to Max's, favoritism. Okay. And then, so qualifying, it seemed very windy. That was the consensus I was getting. There was a yellow flag, like really, barely, I don't even think it lasted more than a couple seconds, but I think Logan went into the gravel. God bless him. I mean, truly, I just feel, I really have never had so much empathy, I think, for a driver in my life.
Yeah, we were talking about this as well, but I think it was part of that article that he wrote where he was like talking about how like Vegas is his home race and like everything that his like family gave up so that he could be in Formula One. And then on top of that, that like little clip that was like, what's your biggest fear? And he's like, not reaching my fullest potential. I'm like, how can I not have sympathy?
I know.
I just feel like it's that and then the Lacey edits, like, oh my god, whenever I hear that song now or whenever I see that just starts playing, it's just like in my brain, it's his soundtrack. And I'm like, and he's such a nice, like he seems like such a genuine good human being.
Totally.
Talking about how he prefers New York pizza with hot honey, I was like, yes,
so good.
Logan Sargent, you are correct.
Yeah, Polly G's is my favorite. The hot honey pizza is so good. But yeah, justice for Logan. I mean, I just hope that if he doesn't stay in F1, like I feel like we've all talked about this, but I feel like he'd do really well in IndyCar.
Yes.
I don't know. It's also just like they decided to put all these American races on the calendar, and then like all of them became Logan's home race, and I just don't think that's fair. It's a lot of pressure to be the hometown hero at 3 races a year when you're in the gravel all the time. I don't know.
Oh my god. Yeah, I feel like I could talk about Logan for like hours and hours and hours, but it is like it's tough because he has so much pressure on him as well. And like it's part of it is like if he can't handle the pressure, he should probably move to a different series. But also it's literally so much pressure because every single race is like, I need to prove myself or I'm not going to be driving again next year. He's only had 1-year contracts. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It's so tough talking about
I know. It really is. It's very difficult. We mentioned this earlier, but I mean, curb checks left and right. That Hulk was killing it.
I know. I was so shocked by the Haas. I continue to be shocked by the Haas every weekend. I'm like, what happened to this team that Gunter Steiner leaving just like awakened a beast? And
I know.
Like insane, and they're qualifying really well, and they're racing really well, and they're like firmly. No, I wouldn't consider them a back marker anymore. No,
I'd consider them like midfield, like maybe back of midfield, but still midfield.
Yeah. And then Kevin's just out here like, causing a ruckus, which is fine. He'll get his penalties, whatever. I think it's really like, get rules made because you're crazy. Like, why not? You have a limited amount of time in this sport. You might as well make your mark however you can. But Fernando got knocked out. I mean, again, he just had like a really rough weekend. And then Oscar, I don't know about you guys. I absolutely hate when penalties don't get spoken about until like way after the after qualifying or after the race or whatever. It just drives me crazy. But so in Q1 is when Oscar impeded Kevin, and then after qualifying, we found out that he in fact got a 3-place grid penalty for that. So happy days. Alpine both got through Q1, which I don't remember when that happened last. So very happy for them.
I think it was last year for sure.
Are you serious?
No, I do not think that both cars have made it out of Q1 this year until today. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Zoe and I always laugh that like a typical ending to Q1 is that Williams, Alpine, and then one other filler driver is out.
Yes.
So I was very happy for them. And then, it's not like it lasted like, that much longer, but small wins. And then Logan was doing all right. I think, well, by all right, he was in P17, but then he had his lap time deleted and moved down to P20, which I guess ended up being P19 because Fernando had to start from the pit lane. So not a total L, but not great.
He's at the back of the grid, which is sad.
I mean, yeah, I know he's comfortable there, but I don't like it. Sorry, I sound like I'm being really shady. It just makes me really sad. Sometimes when I'm sad, I just get feisty. It's how I deal with it.
Yeah, I get it.
I didn't have a lot of notes I felt like the rest of qualifying felt like kind of normal. My only notes for Q2 were Yuki and Daniel beat Checo into Q3.
Yeah.
Which I felt like it's really all that matters. I mean, Yuki did great.
Yeah, we've been the first thing when Irene walked into my apartment today was like, oh my gosh, Yuki, yoinks. We got yoinks. And that's all that matters, honestly.
Yeah. No, today. Agreed. He did so well. I don't know. I'm really excited for him. And like, I don't know. We've talked about, I know we were talking about the Red Bull seat earlier too. Like, I don't think Yuki would get it, but I don't know that it's fair that he's not part of the conversation.
I completely agree.
And I get it because I don't know how Max and Yuki would do on race day. Like, I think Max, I feel like, is always fine and like pretty neutral off track. Mm-hmm. I feel like race day might cause some incidents, but yeah. And then Q3, the only real note I had about Q3, again, I felt like it was pretty standard. Hulk didn't even go out in Q3, did he?
No.
Yeah, standard. Which I think is kind of lame. Like, I get it because you don't want to risk anything, but you're not going to get worse than P10, and you're probably not going to get into I guess you never know if you'll get into an accident or not, but it's like, I would have liked, he was doing so well. I would have been curious to see what happened if he actually went out.
He was very close in Q1 and Q2. They were like consistently, or like they were like P5 in Q1, and I remember people like clapping, and I was like, why are the Haas people clapping? Because we were also on a golf course watching qualifying.
Sure.
So we were a little distracted.
When we were like, oh my gosh, why is Haas clapping? And we saw Nico was top 5, and we're like, how did this happen? Why is he a 10th off of Max Verstappen? Nothing makes sense.
I thought
No.
he had given Max a toe. No?
Oh, I think maybe he did. Oh, maybe
That's why I thought that Max was on pole, because Oscar was.
You're right.
Right.
If
You're right.
Max a toe, then Oscar would have been on pole.
Right.
Yes. You're correct.
I was like, I feel like.
And this is why I would never do this by myself.
I think that's why, like, but I think his lap time got deleted because I don't think he had a time for Q3.
Oh, then that would make sense. But because it was like Max had given Nico a toe, and then he was like, I'll return the favor. That was like the storyline.
Who does that? I'm so confused. It's Max Verstappen.
I'm not
a toe.
I'm not really sure. I really don't understand. But you know, I guess he's just trying to be the antithesis of his teammate.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's very weird. But and then the race. So I felt like there were moments of utter boredom and then panic. Yes, how about you? Okay, great. So I think, well, one thing, this was the 30th anniversary of Senna, losing Senna, which is crazy and sad and horrible. But I thought it was interesting that on this weekend, Max matched Senna's record for 8 consecutive poles. So just another stat to add to Max's sheet. Good for him. Do the smoke bombs stress you out?
Yes, always. Okay. I'm like, why? Like, I thought they banned flares at some point last season.
Yeah. Also, like, do the flares, because I just picture them to work for any of our American listeners, the way the smoke bombs on the 4th of July work, where you light the end and then it starts. So are these people just carrying around like lighters and flares, or can you like pull a tab? And I don't know why I think you have the answers to that, but I'm just curious.
I think you pull a tab for a flare. Oh, because when you like, if you get lost in the forest, you don't always have a lighter on you, and that's also a flare.
Totally. I just feel like having like lit fuses around a large crowd of people feels like a really terrible idea.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought you did need a lighter, and I was like, they're European. Of course they have lighters.
Sure.
That's what I feel like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't.
But I mean, it looks cool. I just am like nervous. And I also was just thinking of like, if the wind is going, like, is it getting caked on your face? And is everyone coughing now because they got red smoke in their lungs? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much, but
yeah, so. I'm gonna have like nightmares about inhaling flare smoke. It's like dry.
I'm gonna Google this.
No, please do. And then report back, please. So not a lot. It was a good kind of start. There were no incidents at the beginning, which is good. And also we always love a turn 1 incident. But the first, I feel like, kind of issue that I saw was after Albon did his first pit stop. I think it was around lap 10 or something. His tire was not on properly, which like stuff happens. But this team, sometimes I'm like, guys, you're really kicking them when they're down. So that was a bummer. And I think he got, is that what he got his penalty for?
Unsafe condition on track.
Great. At least they didn't have to, well, I guess maybe it would have been more interesting if they had to stop the race, but at least he was able to try and finish, even though he didn't. And I'm glad he got to serve his penalties, so it didn't affect him later. But then Fernando, after his pit stop, I think it was like lap 8, his brakes were on fire.
Yeah.
Which apparently is not an unsafe condition on track.
No, I'm
kidding. Well, I think the air blew it out pretty quickly, but I just think it's funny that like you're driving a fireball and that seems like an acceptable thing to do.
I was confused because I don't know what commentary you listen to when you watch
Sky Sports.
Okay, I also listened to the Sky Sports commentary, and they like Karun was like, "Oh, like the air will put out the."
Yeah, that's what he said.
And I was like, "Is that true?" Because I thought oxygen.
Okay, thank you. Because when he said that, I was like, "Yeah, no, totally." And then I went, "Wait, but in a house fire, like when you open the door, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to give it oxygen." But then I was like, "Well, maybe it's just like a giant birthday candle, like." They're going so fast. It's just blowing. Like, that's how I thought about it in my brain of like, oh, it's just a big birthday candle. That makes sense.
But I think when you carbon dioxide when you breathe out, so it's not. But
You know what? Super fair point. So I have absolutely no idea. This is why I'm a fangirl. I'm not an expert on anything. Like I was just like, sure, Corinne, that makes perfect sense what you just said. I'll just roll with it. And
the commentary.
But I was like, okay, but it worked. So Fernando's fine.
That's
but
true.
Still, I was like the whole chemistry, physics elements of it all. I was processing that for a little too long.
I say that at school, I don't know. But I did I Googled the flare thing. So
perfect.
What do you call it? Like the thing, like you know how a matchbox has the
Yep.
striker? So the flare has that as well. So you just strike it there. You don't need like an extra lighter or anything.
Cool.
Oh, interesting. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad that we figured that out. And I guess that they seem relatively safe. I'm really surprised they get let in. But on the one hand, I'm really grateful for how easy it is to like bring in drinks and snacks and all that into the track, but sticks of dynamite feels a little weird. Sorry, that's not what they are. That's not what they are.
Quite similar. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so I feel like so when I watch races, I just have to like take these random notes in order. So I'm a little all over the place. Zoe usually does this part of our podcast, so thank you for bearing with me. But I forgot Chuck had a new engineer.
Yes. Wait, when
Bittersweet.
it was like a jump scare. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I forgot he was here. But
Yeah.
he sounded so calm on track when he was like, you are the fastest man on track. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And that was the first time I heard him. So I was like, what a night. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. So that was exciting. And then they mentioned too, and they said this after the race, but that Ferrari hadn't been on a podium in Imola since 2006, and it was Michael Schumacher, which I just think is so crazy. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it just feels wild to me that it's been that long. But I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was at one point, Checo was 26 seconds behind Lewis, which felt not great for him. And then George Russell did a pit stop so he could get fastest lap because, that's his whole personality. God love him. He loves fastest lap. But I think overall, like the race for me, that was the most exciting battle for first I think I've ever watched since I've been a fan. Like I don't remember because even when Max hasn't won, I feel like it's been pretty obvious that he wasn't going to win because he either DNF'd or he was just like way too far back that it was not clear who the winner was going to be. Um, did you guys think Lando was going to pull it out? Because I kind of did, but maybe that's just wishful thinking.
Oh, I definitely did as well. And I do agree that this is the most interesting, like the last couple of laps, the fight for first, because even when Max isn't winning, it's like Carlos was like 6, 7 seconds ahead of everybody. There was no fight. So this is really exciting. And I was on the edge of my seat and I was like, have I ever seen a fight for first? I'm not sure that I have.
Yeah.
The last 10 laps, it's like not something that's like
crazy.
Honestly normal, even when it's not like in the last couple of years. Usually these people are winning by seconds ahead. So it was honestly, if Lando didn't make those mistakes, because he made like a couple of mistakes those like last 5 laps, I think he would have gotten him on the second last lap of the race.
If only
yes, he just needed
Yeah, I'm so impressed with how much more competitive McLaren's been. I also just think like obviously he's on such a high still, I'm sure from his Miami win, but the defeat of like that's the other thing is the defeat of losing by less than a second is so different than like, oh, we were never going to catch up. It was kind of like within his grasp and he didn't get it. And I feel like we've missed that in this sport for a long time. It's always been, or at least for first, we've had those battles in other places, but yeah, that was very exciting. And I don't remember a race, not that it hasn't happened, but I don't remember a race in recent history where someone's battery was about to die. Like Max was just like, my battery is running low. And I was like, it could stop now. That'd be fine.
Just pull over.
You're my favorite, but also Lando's coming in close second. My current phone background is Travis Kelce and Lando Norris, which is just not something I ever thought I would have. But shout out to everyone who made that happen.
But yeah, I feel like the battery issues are not like at least spoken too much on the radio. Like they deplete their battery. I feel like, especially when they're fighting, they
Hmm.
deplete their battery a decent amount. But I feel like Max has never been in that position in
Yeah,
recent memory because when has he been fighting? And
right.
I've been saying this for a while. I was like, oh, Max isn't racing, he's driving. Today,
Yeah.
Max was racing, and
Yes.
I loved it.
It was
Yeah,
great.
for sure. I said that when we were at the meetup in Miami, I was talking to someone and um I can't remember how the conversation went, but it's like I get bored when Max is so far in the front because I want to watch him race and I only get to watch him drive. So exactly. Maybe I heard you say that and it got wedged in my brain, but yeah, it was nice to see him panic. And I was also like I felt like in at the end of Q3 was the most excited I had heard him in a very long time. Like he was jazzed that he got pole for the first time in a very long time because I just felt like he had to kind of work for it and there was like adrenaline and it was different than it had been before. Um, Also think it's important to note for anyone who didn't know this that Max was also participating in a 24-hour sim race that he won.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, when did you have time for that?
I know. I think it was even like last week where he was on a stream and then he was like, "Oh my gosh, I have Imola that weekend." Like driving an F1 car was his side job and driving the sim was his actual job. And I was
It's
like,
really
this
funny.
is so interesting that it was like, "Oh shit, I have to go and drive in my F1 car." Cool.
Yeah, I have to do my day job.
And he
That's
went for
crazy.
the sim like a couple hours before he had to be at the track, I
He did a
think.
3 hour stint on the sim, I heard, and then like while he was racing, his team finished for
He
him.
is truly a entirely other breed of human being, and it's impressive. And also, I can't I don't understand. Um, it's just a lot.
So
I,
It's
much.
I don't know. I just think it's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna go through a couple of the questions that we got for the race and then dive into some questions about you lovely ladies.
Oh, hey.
Well, actually, someone asked this question and I was thinking about it. And since you guys watch this guy's sports commentary, what were your thoughts on Harry Benjamin? Was that his first time as lead comment? I thought he was great. I mean, I miss Crofty, but I thought he did a really good job. I feel like it's a hard job to do, and he seems to handle it well.
Yeah, I think there were definitely like moments where it was shaky, and I obviously missed the lights out and away we go
Hmm.
because iconic. But I
Yeah.
think he did a really good job. There were moments where it's like he would, I think, like pause a little bit, and there's also like some technical difficulties on
Yeah.
that first lap. But in general, it was really good. I think there was one moment where he was like talking about like when if Norris wins this race, he
mm.
will be like the first repeat race winner since. And then there was like a pause, and then I just like was like Charles Leclerc in 2019.
Yeah. Oh, because again, I don't have this recall, so I was just like, ever? That's cool. And also feels weird. But then he was
Yeah,
like, Charlotte, like he was having to like look it back up again, like he lost his place. And I was like, look, been there. Totally get it. You're on live
exactly. So I think
TV.
it's like obviously like little learning bumps in the road,
Mm.
all of that stuff. But I think he did a great job
Yeah,
because it's
I
hard to just keep talking for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
totally. So someone said, this is more of an opinion thing, but someone said, my Delulu self thinks Oscar could have won if he didn't get that grid penalty.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We're very big Oscar Piastri fans.
Yeah.
So I think that's just like us being like, oh yeah, he could have totally done that. He was
Yes.
stuck in what was it, traffic for majority of that race, and I would felt like horrible for him because I was
Yeah.
like, if he had cleared Carlos earlier, I think things would have changed.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
I just am such an Oscar fan. Like literally
Me too.
Silverstone. I was like, he's gonna be a world driver champion one day. And my friend was like, you're insane for saying that now. He's had how many races? And I was like, no, I believe it in my soul. Like I think
Yeah. Well, people have been saying that about Lando forever too, and he only just won his first race last weekend. So anything is possible.
Mhm.
It can all happen. Oh, someone asked, and I don't know where the FIA is with this conversation or, everyone is with this conversation, but there's been talks about the point system changing. And Zoe's talked about this for a while, and I agree with her, but it seems like there are a lot of really good battles, especially in the last few years of Red Bull dominance. There's a lot of really great battles further back in the field, and I feel like get anything out of that, even though it's, as for us as viewers, it's where the entertainment is coming from a lot. So I think there's been conversations for them to expand points to 12th place. I would love to see everyone be able to get points, but what are your thoughts on that? And maybe if there's been more conversation that I haven't seen.
I mean, I would love to see everyone get points. I mean, like the IndyCar system, I think is so cool because I mean, IndyCar is slightly different in that like the chassis is the same, the engines are different, so everyone's kind of like it's actual pure racing.
Right.
But here, it's like the constructors and all of that. But I mean, even the Haas's, the Stakes, Yuki, Daniel, like they were all in it today, and I loved watching those little battles happen. And I think it just helped promote more like championship fights, especially at the back where it's like usually it's only 1 or 2 points separating them. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I think it helps smaller teams so much since points like equate to money for the teams. Like I think that would be really nice and to like be able to see smaller teams like finally catch up a little bit more to like midfield.
And I think it would also like affect the top teams too. Cause like imagine if like there are 2 teams like fighting for that championship, then it could come down to one of their drivers who had a bad qualifying finishing P9 versus P12. Like it could like a make or break situation where it's like 3 points separating them could be the difference between a constructors championship or not.
Yeah, agreed. I don't really see a lot of negatives with it. So I guess that's where I sometimes come in. I'm like, and not that there aren't, I guess don't know what they are. And so it's kind of like, guys, can you just do it for the well-being of your fans?
Yes, literally.
Okay, so I'd like to talk about both of you now. We have some questions from folks, but the first thing I want to talk about is Neha, you were featured in Lando Norris's photo dump, and I would just like to know what that feels like.
I was at work and my phone just starts buzzing like crazy. So I put it on mute and then it starts lighting up again like crazy. And I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So I open my phone and I just see like, oh my gosh, that's like most of the things are like OMG, like all of these things. I was like, what is happening? So I go and check my first text, which is from one of my hometown friends, and she was like, Neha, it's you. And then I saw this picture. I knew that a picture had been taken. I did not know if I was in said picture because an ESPN person had taken the camera and said, smile. And I didn't know if he was just talking to Lando. I didn't know both of us. So I was like, I'm just going to smile.
Well, I'm glad you did. That would have been, I mean, imagine either you didn't smile and there would be a awkward photo of you in Lando's photo dump, or it wouldn't have made the cut. So when in doubt, just smile.
Yeah. So a lot of people were asking me how I was doing. I was fine. Personally, I was like, this is a very odd thing to be a part of. It's very cool. A lot of my coworkers were like, why were you featured on Lando Norris's Instagram? And I was like, I don't know.
I was a part of his weekend. That's why.
Yeah. So it was really funny. I thought it was that's how I feel. I thought it was very, very funny. And I was like laughing for like most of that day.
Yeah. Well, it's very surreal, but also very exciting. So, congratulations. But so I know, we talked about this on our Miami recap episode, but we were able to get dinner with you on the Wednesday before race weekend. So we kind of knew a little bit about what you were doing, but can you just give a quick high level, of what the ESPN program that you were a part of, like what that looks like, and then, what you got to do at the race?
Yeah, of course. So I'm part of ESPN's Creator Network for this year, and it's like a program that runs for most of the year. I'm covering F1 and tennis with them. So my F1 race was Miami, and my tennis event is going to be the US Open in August, September, which I'm very excited about.
That's awesome.
Basically, it's like 9 of us. They're giving creators who talk about sports opportunities across the board. So there are people who cover MMA, college basketball, soccer, women's soccer, like all of like sports. Everyone kind of covers something different. So that's what the program is. They're doing it every single year. I believe that last year was their first year, and Tony was like Tony Cohen Brown was the F1 representative for that year, and I am this year. And I hope that they continue to do it for as long as possible because it's an amazing program that they're running. I got to do insane stuff in Miami. I actually did not know what I was going to expect going in.
Yeah.
All I knew I was probably going to be interviewing Daniel Ricciardo. And that was enough for me. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. I get to
Yeah.
talk to Ricciardo. But then we got there on media day. We're kind of sitting around and scoping out the whole place because the paddock was kind of limited to everyone who was working the event.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person who I was working with was like, okay, come on, let's go. And I was like, oh, where are we going? It's like, oh, we're gonna go interview Lando. And I was like, okay, let's
Great.
interview Lando Norris. So got to talk to Lando, and then later in the day, got to talk to Daniel. Got to see like Daniel and Yuki catch some footballs. That like the video of Yuki that's like gone pretty viral now of like him catching all the footballs. I took that video.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, and I got credit from ESPN. Shout out ESPN. But yeah, so that happened, and then obviously got to talk to Oscar very, very briefly. And then the other really cool thing that I got to do was I thought I was going to talk to a Mercedes engineer. The Mercedes engineer talked at me, and then I got to talk about the updates on Lewis Hamilton's car with ESPN, which is really, really cool. So my little nerdy engineering brain was freaking out, but it was a very, very cool time. I'm still like in awe of everything that I got to do.
I'm sure. No, it looked amazing. And I was kind of thinking about this because I feel like we get a lot of questions, and I'm sure you guys do too, about like how to start on social media if people are interested in doing that. And then also, I think people feel like they have to kind of pick a niche, but I love that you've been like unapologetic of like, no, these are the things I like, and I'm knowledgeable about them, and I'm going to talk about them. Like, I don't know anything about cricket. I haven't seen, I don't know that you have a lot of cricket content, but like, I just love that you're not afraid to put it out there. And I think it's really cool that not only did you get the opportunity with F1, but you also got the opportunity with tennis, which is like, I feel like the two loves of your life, if I could say that.
100%.
So,
I feel like it's been lots of like change, and like I was also, we've talked about this a couple of times now, but a lot of people have been asking like how to get into this. It's kind of just to start. We don't really have backgrounds in sports other than the fact that we watch them, and then we also don't really have backgrounds in like PR or marketing or anything like that. We did completely separate things in college, so it's kind of just again finding what you're passionate about and kind of going forward that way.
Yeah. And I think, I always kind of laugh. It's our running joke, Zoe and I, but like we wouldn't be where we are now, I don't think, if Zoe was good at, like, if she wasn't good at social media, because I just like don't do it. Because it stresses me out. And so like I totally understand the fear of it, but I think from her perspective too, it's like if you want to do it, you pick the thing that you like talking about and enjoy talking about, because you have to do it so consistently. You have to post, well, you don't have to, but to kind of start gaining numbers, I feel like you have to post a few times a day, definitely multiple times a week. And so it helps if you like what you're talking about, for sure. Because otherwise you're just going to get bored of it quick.
Yeah. Somebody commented on one of my TikToks once, like, oh, like F1's paying you to say this. I was like, no, like I wish somebody was paying me, but it's just like the weird hobby that I've developed over the past couple of years.
Yeah, no, people are like, it's funny because I think this influencer culture that we live in now, they've just started associating dollar signs with follower count. And people are like, oh my God, it's so cool like that you guys do that. How much money do you make? And I was like, no. Like we make some, like there's, we can make some money on YouTube or whatever, and like there's some other avenues for us to make money, but like Instagram isn't just paying us money because we post stuff on there. That's not how it works. I wish,
Seriously.
But I think there was maybe an Instagram creator fund, but I don't know anything about it. So but yeah, it's just you have to like it. Treat it. It has to be a hobby, because otherwise you won't want to do it. But Neha, someone asked like who, and I know it's hard to pick favorites, but like who the loveliest driver was their question, or just like the best interview experience, I guess, that you had.
I had a great interview experience with all of them. I mean, my time with Lando and Oscar was Oscar was very short because we were kind of rushing through that, but he was super nice. All of them were very, very nice humans. I was there for Charles Leclerc's interview with ESPN. Charles Leclerc is one of the nicest human beings ever.
I believe that.
ever, ever, ever. I was in awe of like how polite he was. Actually, I should have known, like, I'm like, this guy is Monegasque. Like, he is the embodiment of just like composure and politeness. Like, he just like exudes that energy. Daniel Ricciardo, that interview was supposed to be like a couple of minutes, like 3 to 4 minutes. And he had to go to it like his next commitment. We were there for like 10 minutes just like chatting. We asked him about Tom Brady. That's like ESPN has that content. We asked him about so many things
Mhm.
and he was just like chit chatting. And I was like, this is so
That's
like
awesome.
because I mean, I love talking about football. If someone let me talk about football for hours, I would happily do that.
Yeah.
So getting to talk about like the Bills with him and all of that stuff, I was like, this is so fun and exciting. So I think in just terms of general flow of conversation, my conversation with Daniel was definitely my favorite because it was just easy and we
Yeah.
had the most time, but all of them were really great.
Oh, love it. Okay, and then last question about your experience specifically, but someone was just curious about your different, like now that you've been to the race from a media perspective, what you know the biggest difference is, like apart from the access, I suppose, but what it was like comparing, contrasting the experience going as a fan versus media.
I think I mean, not that I didn't fangirl, but you can't fangirl
Yeah.
because it's not there. You're working. And I think that's the one thing that I like learned like right when I got there, because when we got there on Thursday morning, paddock was empty, no drivers, no nothing. So I got to go on the grid and just like point at stuff and be like, oh my gosh, that is Charles Leclerc's front wing. Like I got to do that kind of stuff. But then once people started populating the general area, it's like you have to
Yeah.
kind of maintain composure. You can't like freak out about things because when I'm at a racetrack, I will start sobbing when I
Yeah.
see a car. I think when I was at Coda in 2022, Lewis Hamilton's car drove past me and I burst into tears. I stood next to Lewis Hamilton's car at this race and
Very composed.
I was just like, look,
Yeah.
there's the car. And inside I knew I was like freaking out a little bit, but I was just like, here is a car. It is a Formula One car. This
Yep.
is cool. This is my favorite driver's Formula One car. This is normal. So I think that was the biggest difference, is just like as excited as I was, I kind of had to maintain composure, act like everything was normal. Like this was my day job.
Yeah.
And it very well was not.
It's hard to do, but I mean, it's true. It's like you have to just kind of go. I think that is one thing, is even though we didn't go like with the same level of access, it still feels, because we have content that we want to put out. It is a lot of it that feels like it's a job, or like constantly feeling like you need to make sure you're capturing the moment rather than like sitting in the moment, I guess. Which can be kind of hard, but I mean, the access that we can like have been able to have is great and wonderful, but it is interesting how you kind of your mental perspective is different which is, I know sounds obvious, but it's true. It's like you don't have time to freak out. Like you you're not allowed to. You can't. Like when we were in Austin and got to go in the paddock for a little while, um, like Daniel walked by and I saw Justin Bieber in church once and literally just started shaking. And like I saw Daniel Ricciardo in the paddock and I pretended like nothing was wrong. I pretended like nothing weird was going on. And that was totally normal for us to share airspace. So I know what you mean, but yeah, it's just crazy. Um, okay. Do you have plans to go to any other races this year?
Yes, we do.
Ooh, what you doing?
We are going to Barcelona.
Amazing.
Excited. I have been talking about wanting to go to Barcelona for months now, so I'm very, very.
It's also Irene's birthday on race day in Barcelona.
Wow. Happy early birthday.
Yeah.
Very early.
And we also are going to Coda.
Yes.
Sad I won't see you at Coda, but excited for you.
Oh yeah, you guys are.
We have a wedding.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, which I'm so excited for. I'm very happy for her. And I think we're gonna try and go to Vegas this year. So,
ooh, maybe we'll see you.
I know Irene wasn't supposed to come to Vegas last year, and then she ended up in Vegas. Yeah. So I feel like something similar might just happen this year.
I think
probably
Vegas is just like a fun experience. Like I wouldn't really say like going for racing, but even though it was a pretty exciting race,
Yeah.
it was just like fun to be in Vegas. So
Yeah.
I kind of want to, that's like my like because of my PTO, I have to be very strict about what races I want to go to. So Vegas is one of them that I was like, I would love to go again.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah, Pete, that whole like pesky gotta pay the bills thing. We struggle with that over here as well. Okay, a few more questions. So one, I'm just curious about predictions you may have for Monaco. I know obviously it's a glamorous race. It's very exciting, but I know it can be qualifying typically like sets the grid. So just curious about your thoughts.
I just can't have the Monaco curse again. I think it will like break my heart.
Yes.
That's all I'm praying for.
Yeah. And what are you manifesting?
Charles win.
Yeah.
Manifest a Charles win.
Always.
Yeah, okay.
So,
yeah.
I know it's pretty obvious, but
manifest
okay.
Lewis on the podium too.
That'd be so great. Oh, future teammates.
Yeah.
It'd be so cute.
It would be so cute. Oh, just love them. Neha, any other predictions for you? Or you just want to make sure there's no curse?
I want to make sure there's no curse. I want Lewis on the podium. I would love Oscar on the podium too. I think that's my dream podium.
I love that.
So yes.
We'll send on that one. I definitely support that. Okay, so then we have been doing this on a few episodes. So I think we started with China because we were looking for change in China. And so we've decided to give an alliterative adjective, is that a phrase? I don't know, to all the future races. And for Monaco, I think my word that I want to have is memorable. Hopefully for good reasons, but I kind of like keeping it vague because it could be memorable for a lot of things. I would need everyone to be safe. That's all. I don't want it to be memorable for something really bad. Now that I'm saying all of this out loud, but do you guys have a word that you're looking for in Monaco?
Just given the Charles of it all, I would love like miracle in Monaco where he wins. But I'm not gonna lie, first word that came to my mind was Messi in Monaco, and I was like,
it's great.
I don't like that.
But it could be messy for someone else. It could be messy not for Ferrari. The mess could cause a Ferrari win. I mean, a Charles win, excuse me. Let me be more specific.
Charles win.
Charles win. Yeah. That's what we're really hoping for here.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, all of the adjectives.
That's okay. That's all right. It's fine. I mean, I think you could be manifesting in Monaco.
That's true. That's a good one. Manifesting Monaco. That is what we're doing.
So I think Zoe came up and for Miami, she said miracle too, which is fine because you didn't pick that first, so you get to have it. But then I said McLaren in Miami. So you're welcome because
it was all because of you.
It was amazing.
Yeah. It was us.
Yeah. Your adjective, my interview, Lando wins.
Why he won.
Yeah. And so I'm hoping that manifesting miracles that are memorable in Monaco will be great. Yeah. I like how it all works together. Good stuff. Okay, so last thing before we go, where can people find you? Drop the channels, drop the pod.
Well, our Instagram for the three of us is the Triplet Pod, and then our TikTok is the same, but with a 1 at the end because somebody stole the username first.
Classic.
And then you can find me everywhere at Irene X Sue.
And me at Neha K Sridhar I post on Instagram and TikTok. So I think you do.
Well, I just post photos on Instagram
for the vibes. My stories are kind of unhinged. I will warn you on Instagram. Sometimes
I enjoy them
about sports, and it's not just F1, but yeah, it's fun times.
Very fun times. Well, I can't thank you both enough for joining me today. Couldn't have done it without you. Very excited for Monaco, of course. And I don't know if you know, but we end our episodes with a little enchanté. That's the last word we say at the end of the podcast. So I would love for you two to do the honors. Feel free to count down, sync it up.
All right, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Enchanté.
Perfect.